What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Talkin Wellness presented by South Florida Wellness Network. My name is Christian.
It's your boy Michael. How we doing?
And it's your girl Kayla. I did it again.
You did.
But I did it on purpose.
But it's okay. We're going to make it a thing now. It's okay. We are recording this episode bright and early, so we might be a little groggy, but don't worry. We're gonna wake up for this episode because we have a very important topic to talk about. And look at him. He's already stretching. He's getting ready. You know, before we begin, did you guys do the rap thing, the Spotify rap thing or the Apple? You don't have that?
I didn't do it.
What is it?
It's like when you check your top artists of the year.
Oh, man, no.
We should have done it. Anyways, mine was surprisingly Metro Boomin.
Really?
I don't know why. Well, I know why. It's because I listened to his albums earlier in the year because I was interested.
There's not been a lot of music that's like replayable this year, so maybe that was just the top one that you found.
Yeah, a lot of people are getting Sabrina Carpenter, Taylor Swift, Post Malone. You know, surprisingly, a lot of people are getting Drake and
really,
yeah, which I
Wow.
was surprised about. I was like, whoa, really? But hey. You know, that's what it is. But anyway,
I'd be curious to know mine.
Me too. I mean, I have a feeling mine. I listen to gospel music on replay, so
there you go. That was probably your top
is.
10. What about you, Michael? What do you listen on replay?
I don't know.
Andrea Bocelli or like? No, I'm kidding.
I have no idea, to be honest. I listen to a lot of random music. Like literally everything from screamo to like hip hop. I listen to everything.
You hear that?
I don't listen to country. I hate country. Can't listen to country.
I'm
love
I'm
country.
growing a soft spot for
Can't do
for
it.
country.
Yeah.
I'd
Man.
literally rather listen to screamo and death metal than country all day.
I'd rather listen to both. That's the
It's just
funny
What
more
part.
don't you
energy.
like about
It's just
country?
boring. Super boring music. Music has to move me. I like dancing, and there's never been a time I've ever wanted to dance listening to country music.
I don't know. I listen
I think
to
it's
some
like
country
some-
rock, and I'm like, hey, let's
Yeah.
get this party
Yeah,
started.
I do too. Yeah, it just depends. What
I've
you're
watched
listening
the.
to.
I used to be a big fan of The Voice. Big fan.
Oh,
And like
yeah.
that's always like the number one people that like people love is country artists. I always hate them. No matter how good they are.
Really?
They could be really good and like maybe a specific tone. I'll be like, okay, I like this guy, but I just find the genre so
Oh my
boring.
gosh.
It's
Oh.
so boring to me. It's such. Maybe it's the sound. It might be the specific sound. It's just so.
Yeah.
I like Caribbean music, Spanish music.
Okay.
I'm drawn to that sound.
I feel you, Mike.
Outside of lyrics, I'm just drawn to that music sound.
Heck yeah, I love
Yeah.
that.
And the cymbals and the instruments, and it's just so not that with country. It's literally the opposite of country, and it's just like.
Really? I mean, I kind of get you.
I can't put all country in the same
Like
box. They
as
all
soon
sound
as,
the
Yeah,
same,
yeah.
but
you know, as
for
soon
the
as they
most
grab a
part-
guitar and they start talking about their Ford, you know, and their
for the
and their
yeah,
cups,
that general
and they're
like you know, people
I'm gonna
always
wear
make,
my boots to go to the farm.
exactly
Like
that. How
I don't know
people
how I
always
feel
make
about
fun
that.
of it, like just that even general concept of the music, just
I don't know how
boring
about that.
to me.
However, you
I don't
put
know.
on some
Yeah.
country rock. Like I'm talking about like
There's some good country.
what's his name?
For every
Chris
country rock
Stapleton,
song or
and I'm
something.
like,
Chris Stapleton
heck
is,
yeah,
I
bro.
know, he's
But
my
I don't even
bro.
Jelly
He's
Roll.
like-
But that's the thing.
Yeah.
People, okay, so you can consider that country. I don't even consider that country. I consider that more
that's
blues.
country. That's country rock though.
blues, folk.
Well, country
Chris-
rock and blues
Chris-
is like right
country-
there.
Chris
I was gonna say
It's like
and
right
blues-
there.
Yeah,
Chris
they go
Stapleton is
together.
very folky.
He, of course, but that's like that country vibe. There's different types of
Yeah, there's
like.
different types of country,
Yeah,
and I've learned
yeah.
to love
Yeah.
country rock. Country. I don't know about that.
Country, and yeah. No,
Dolly
yeah, for
Parton.
sure.
I'm like, I don't know, but like, you
Oh
know,
my
you
gosh,
give me
I get down
country
with some
rock,
old school country.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I like all genres, so I can appreciate each genre except for I cannot do the screamo stuff. I just
Really?
I can't
Love
get down with
screamo.
that.
Ugh, Linkin
Ugh.
Park is my jam right
Yes,
love
but I don't even
screamo.
The
consider
Emptiness
them.
Machine,
I don't
are you
consider
kidding
them
me?
screamo. Linkin Park.
now. They scream.
Yeah, but it's like not like there's screamo where it's all like,
That's like death metal.
and I'm
Yeah.
just like, I have a headache.
I listen to that
Like,
stuff when I work out.
oh
all the
my
time.
God.
I
that's
listen
horrible.
to a lot of
the
screamo,
best
a
stuff
lot
to
of
work
heavy
out.
metal,
no.
Metallica. You know.
Suicide Boys.
Oh, there you go.
It's a terrible name for a group, but
That is true.
they have
That
great
yeah.
music that just it's not great music. It's very demonic music, but it's awesome.
Demonic.
But you're drawn to the beat.
That's really what it is.
I know.
It's
the hurts. It's
the hi-hats and different things and cymbals and different things like that.
Oh my gosh, that's
and
funny.
Bass.
It's okay. I listen to like Meek Mill when I work out, so
It's literally just to work out. It's not like I'm
bit.
listening to Suicide Boys on my daily like
Dreams
walking
and
around.
Nightmares.
I was in my Pierce DeVille era when I was in high school. Like I love all that.
Evanescence. There's so many.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, rock I can get down with, but I cannot get down with like screamo, like headache stuff. But
Really?
yeah.
Well,
but it's the same with some of this rap music that I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, there's a lot of rap out there that I'm not
It's just
huge
disgusting.
Rap is just
fan of.
trash right now.
It's
in general.
trash. The only person that I've actually took a liking to because it's my son's favorite artist is Rod Wave, and like we have listened to.
He had a
like,
huge
Really, I
concert
can't listen
recently.
to Rod
Oh my God, I
Wave.
love
My
Rod
God.
Wave.
He had a huge concert recently. Like I was
Yeah.
watching
I'm
some
not gonna lie,
videos on
his
it.
music's boring.
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
You say it's boring, but his concerts are selling out, bro.
I agree.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
selling
yeah.
out.
No,
He
I
has
like
a
his
crazy
You know what it
fan
is?
base.
He's like chill, but it's still like good vibe. Like
You
I
know
don't
what? That's the thing.
And
Maybe
I like
that's
his
what
lyrics.
I don't like about music.
His
His
lyrics.
hip hop, because I understand that hip hop, in general, is a chaotic music. Hip hop is a rebellious, like
Absolutely.
art form. That's the whole point of it. And when I listen to someone like do hip hop in like a
But he's like
chill way,
poetic.
it's like
Because he's poetic.
it
and
just
when
comes off
and
weird.
he-
Yeah,
It's like,
I'm
bro,
more
I
of a
grew-
Kendrick fan
I grew up
myself.
On Kendrick. Yeah, I grew up on Tupac and Biggie
Yeah.
and Nas, and then went to Kendrick, and even Drake has a little battle rap in him. And then like Rod Wave, I'm like,
It's just a different form. I like his style.
I
I just
can't-
It's
can't do
different.
it too much positivity. I need some type of beef in hip hop. Like, come
Right.
on.
Well-
He'll be like, oh, come on, we got to get the. It's a great message. Let me not speak.
No,
He's
I get
honestly
it.
a great artist.
I
I
get
just
it.
not my type.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
Well,
I need like. chaotic
we could talk
music.
about music all day.
Yeah.
But
For
we
real, we
do have
can.
a topic that we wanted to get into, and it's the title of this episode. We're going to be talking a lot about homelessness and people who are unhoused.
So off from what we were just
It
talking
I know.
was,
about.
yeah. So
No, but it's
like a-
okay. This is
Sorry,
a good
guys.
intro. This is a good intro
Yeah.
to kind of get the conversation flowing, right?
Yeah,
You know,
it's a more serious conversation.
Absolutely.
But we definitely wanted to, we've been in a pattern now of hitting this heavy, interesting topics. You guys probably saw last week our episode on marijuana, right? And everything that had to do with that conversation.
yeah,
and,
the pros and cons,
right?
and just
So, and then the one before that, even more controversial, kind of like different takes on different things, right? So we wanted to kind of start this new season really hitting some of these topics that are like really buzzy right now because there's so much happening in our country regarding these topics.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're going to talk about a law right now that has specifically to do with this issue. Of a lot of people experiencing homelessness. So I think it's a good idea to kind of start there. So can we go ahead and read that law and exactly how is that affecting people who are unhoused?
yeah, absolutely. Okay, so House Bill 1365 went into effect October 2nd of this year. It was signed by Governor Ron DeSantis, and this is this law is that Florida's homeless are now banned from camping or sleeping on public property. And so this was signed back in March, but it went into effect in October. This has been a very difficult and controversial topic because I have talked to different people about like their take on it, and I understand certain perspectives of why people think that the way they do. But what I'm kind of, bringing up here and what we're going to talk about is like, do we really think that that is like a good solution to what's going on in our communities? Because there is a rise on the unhoused, and really like, I feel like this has, I don't feel like this was the best solution. That's just like my honest opinion. And I think that it's so much bigger than just like one person or one legislative law that's going to go into effect to be able to really tackle the unhoused situation and crisis that we have going on like nationwide. Because it's obviously not just happening in Florida, but that was like Florida's response to what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, if we're really being honest about it, we're really talking about people. You
Yeah.
know? I don't like how a lot of the times not we as in like us three, but we as in like a society, we kind of toss the word like, oh, these homeless people, and it's like, it's not people, it's homeless first, you know. And it's and you can see it a lot in the lawmaking and in the perspectives, right? I can personally recall a time where I was hanging out with people, and an unhoused individual came to us asking for some food, and then we were like, oh yeah, whatever. But there was one person in that group who I was like, ew, no, get away from us. And I was like, no, I can get him a McDonald's quick 5 something. But it's just that mentality that's being very popular in our society, where it's like, we got to other them, you know, like we got to see them as less than, so let's just keep them over there, right? And it's laws that like this that really perpetuate that kind of mentality. Whereas, like, why do you think that law really passed? Because there were some people who were like, hey, there's a lot of people sleeping, you know, that new park that we remodeled and refurbished and whatever, and it looks really pretty. Now there's a lot of people who are in house who are sleeping here. We don't want that. That doesn't look nice. So let's kick them out. Let's make a law that kicks them out. That's really what this is. And like, I guess my immediate thought goes to, well, what are we doing in response? You made the bill, okay? Are you making what's it called, shelters more available to them? Are you providing transportation for people who cannot afford to walk 15 miles to the nearest shelter or whatever? Like, it's those kind of things that I think need to be in this conversation when we decide to make such a huge decision, like no more sleeping in public areas. Okay.
So where do all these people go?
Where are they going?
Right. Yeah, I just, that's what I think of it, is like more so of like, we're putting this Band-Aid approach that we think is a Band-Aid, but it's really not doing much of anything on an issue that is way bigger than just like, we're going to sign a law that says you can't sleep on public property, you know? So what happens then? Because it's like you said, is there the expansion of shelter beds? Is there going to be more affordable housing? Is there, you know, like what are the services? What is each community's part to play in this? And how are we tackling this as a community and as a state? Because it's so much bigger than just like a law of where people can and can't sleep.
And shelters are full.
They're full, yeah. No, we are experiencing this. I have, and this is like one of the hardest things I think that I've seen, I probably in the past couple of years, really, is the amount of families, like full-blown families that are unhoused, and children that are legitimately like sleeping under bridges and parks and like on the streets or in vehicles. And it's just like, you know, when I go and lay my head down at night and realize like I have shelter today for me and my family, like it just gives you a different perspective of the struggles. And I like how you mentioned, Chris, I feel like a lot of people that aren't educated, they generalize an individual that's experiencing homelessness as like this person that is making these choices, and this is their, you know, they're all on drugs. They all, you know, all of these different things, because I've heard it from people.
They need to get up and work. And I'm like,
yeah, there's like so much, you know, and whereas there could be an individual that is on the streets that is experiencing homelessness and may have a substance use disorder, may have a mental health challenge, may have a lot of trauma that they haven't been able to work through, and doesn't have family support, doesn't have like a lot of those what we would call recovery capital, which are like the resources of support and like people to like stand them up, and they end up on the streets. And these people have stories. Look at our veterans. It really disgusts me like that we have veterans that have like given their life, served in for their country, have went through all kinds of trauma, all kinds of stuff, and they come back and like this is the other half of their life, you know? And it's just those types of things really, it frustrates me, but I also know that this is a huge undertaking, and it's not going to just be like one person's responsibility or one organization or one entity, but like how do we come together to really tackle this? It's not going to happen overnight, obviously. I'm going to read some statistics because it's mind-blowing how where we're at today and like the increases in like the unhoused, and we're going to talk about what we think like some of the challenges and issues are that factor into that. So number of homeless people in 2023 was over 650,000 people in the United States that experience homelessness, which is a 12% increase from 2022. This is record high. States with the highest rates of homelessness, New York, Vermont, and Oregon, had highest per capita rates of homelessness. It is like so bigger cities is typically what happens. Like Los Angeles is like they carry a huge population of the unhoused. Yeah. Health impacts. People experiencing homelessness die nearly 30 years earlier than the average American. They also have higher rates of illness and often die from easily treatable illnesses. And then what are some of the causes? So according to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, a record number of people are currently unhoused in the U.S. Several factors are driving this increase, such as rising housing costs, right? So we'll talk a little bit about that, inflation, like, you know, the ability for even like our children, like to buy homes and like what that looks like. Also, rising housing costs, surging immigration, and the end of many COVID-19 relief programs. And then obviously mental health, substance use, trauma have also contributed to that. And then a lack of low-cost housing and limited housing assistance programs, which we've seen. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we're seeing is that we are linkers, so we try to link people to those resources. But when every resource is tapped and there's no shelter beds, and there's no, like, what do you do?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting that you say that. Before I started working here, my mother, she's always been working in like community, basically what we do, but in different places. And one of the cases she was working was this family who was unhoused. And they were working with my mom, and they made their way to the shelter. And the shelter told them, we don't have capacity. The best we can do is you, Dad, we can take your kids and your wife, but we can't take you, Dad. Mm-hmm. You know, and I saw the fear, you know, because it's like, well, I don't want to leave my family. Like, that's mortifying. And they decided to sleep in a parking garage, and that was their bed. Turns out the wife had a humongous leg injury. They didn't have the money to pay for surgery or to pain relief, nothing. So they had this little sweet boy. I got to meet him. He's the cutest kid in the world. They were just sleeping in a parking garage for a week, you know, and eventually my mom and her job were able to find him a shelter where they could stay for a bit. But we see this happening to such a large degree that it's honestly scary. At least for me it is, because now we're getting to a point where two things are happening, or maybe even three. Families are being separated, one. Two, people are being denied the decency of a roof, you know, just being able to just get away from the rain. And three, we're seeing people who can't afford a home, who have difficulty finding jobs, that are getting sick and are getting injured and don't have the resources to find a job or to drive to or get. You see what I'm saying? So it's like it's all these problems, and kind of like you said, it's like I feel like we're putting this huge Band-Aid over it. It's like, yeah, don't sleep in.
Can I ask you guys
parks.
a question?
Yeah.
You guys know I come from an extremely conservative mindset when it comes to like a lot of topics. This is one that's very controversial, but with that being said, what do you guys think is a solution? Like, what do you think? Because, yeah, there's going to be people that are struggling, that are homeless, that have been through a lot of things, that have maybe had an injury that they couldn't pay for. Because there's a lot of circumstances that can lead to that. But there's also a lot of people that are homeless because they're just homeless. They probably at one point had a chance to put an effort and they never did. This isn't everyone. This is probably a smaller percentage. But I'm asking that is because it's like, when do we like put a boundary or like set a standard where it's like we're gonna help them, but at the same time they have to help themselves as well? Because there's a lot of there's so many homeless people for like there's 600,000 or something that if it's to say none of them can find a job, they're all in that place, everybody else in the United States has to almost take care of them or something like that. So like, I guess my question is, what would be the response to that? Because nobody wants to see homeless people, but at the end of the day, there's always going to be someone that's just not going to put an effort. They're just not going to do things. It's just not going to go work. They're just going to do. not saying they're all like that.
No, for
Yeah.
sure.
But
Well,
it's
I
just
think,
like, when
I
do
see where
we
you're coming from.
yeah, I
declare the boundaries to help
well,
the
you
people?
treat each person as an individual. So
Okay.
I too believe that people have to be capable. I
Because
don't
my
want,
mom was
for sure,
homeless.
absolutely, yeah.
You were homeless.
Absolutely.
How
So
many people do we know that were homeless that worked in these kind of
100%,
organizations
but that's
that got
not.
off?
But every story's different.
100%.
Right? And
Right.
so I think that you can't, and this is what the public does. I think a lot of the time is like people will generalize everyone.
But at the same, how do we not generalize everything?
Well,
How do you not? You actually take a interest in each person. Like you treat people. So like our
But is that
values
realistic?
here. Yeah. If you as a if this is why I said it's not going to be just one organization, one entity.
Yeah.
If we as a community had that approach, there would be more people off the streets.
But that approach requires resources coming from where?
From the community, from everyone.
But that means money out of your pocket, his pocket, more money. So that's what I'm saying. What
For sure.
at what
Yeah. Well, we
boundary
put-
do you think
but-
like?
well, 'cause I think-
I'm gonna tax. So that means more taxes out of your pocket.
Well,
So
not
what's-
necessarily. It just means that where taxes, I believe, are going or not going, it's not effective. You
True.
want to build more community
But do you think the
courts.
government is going to move that money and just start putting in homelessness, or do you think they're going to ask for more money from you and to require that help, and then they're going to still have that? So let's say they're giving you 6% right now, right? And that's what they require to fix roads and different things like that. Do you think they're going to change that and be like, it's going to be 6%, but now we're going to help the homeless? Or do you think they're going to be like, okay, now it's 15%, and we'll use that 9% to help the
Not
homeless?
necessarily. I think where advocacy comes is you go and you talk to your local officials, you talk to legislation, because if people are willing to listen to like, hey, you're dumping all of this money into like building these community courts, so you're trying to put, again, you're putting millions and millions and millions of dollars into these community courts, when if you would put that into the resources that people need in order to really get on their feet, you're going to prevent you're going to save more money on the back end. Legislation, they like to hear dollars, right? So if I come to you and I say, you're putting 50 million in this, right? But what is the outcome of that?
So you think they're allocating the money the wrong way?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
And I can agree with you to a degree, because I've seen in other countries, they'll build like park benches a certain way so you can't sleep on them.
Yeah.
And it's like all that stuff is an extra cost,
to
extra
me,
money.
And this is okay. So if we really took like a approach to this, we're like, again, this is not a one man show. Like this would take a lot of people. And you're right, there are going to be people that maybe they still want to make the decisions that they make and be unhoused, but we can't group everyone into that.
Yeah.
Because every family that we do give, not a hand out, but a hand up, right? Because some people need a hand up. I needed a hand up. If I didn't have the family support or people that were willing to put finances, I wouldn't be here today. I would probably still be out on the streets, or I'd be dead. That's just the truth. And not everybody has the family support that's willing to like financially help you when you're ready for help, right? And so I look at it as a standpoint of like, people also need to learn skills to work. Like there's system-wide challenges that I believe like contribute to where we're at today with the crisis. I don't think people should learn to be dependent on the government. I think that is like one of the biggest ways to create an oppressed society, right? But I think that there needs to be people that are willing to stand up and say, I will mentor you. I learned how to do these things and I will mentor you. And if somebody's willing to do that, because not everybody has that luxury or that privilege, right? And so when you meet someone who's like so grateful for that opportunity because they really just have had a crappy hand like in life and like, or whatever their circumstance, there's so many circumstances of why people end up like unhoused, right? And the widows and orphans, like to me, like taking care of widows and orphans, that is my responsibility. And that's a conservative mindset, right? It's like, how do we really care for those people? I think the strategy and how we have been doing it is not helpful. And I think that it has been what has led to this, because we get people dependent on programs that are going to be no longer existent, rather than teaching people how to become self-sufficient where they can kind of care for and provide.
And that's kind of my thing. It's like, I don't think that will ever get to a point like where our government's going to teach people to be self-sufficient, because the whole point of government is to have people rely on you.
Right.
So
but I think we have a responsibility, the people that know that, and like,
I think I just come from a very like, that's an idealistic way to think.
Yeah.
Is like, we're going to help everybody, but it's at the end of the day, it's like,
no, but we may not help everybody, but to me, like every person that I help is
I just
a person that is like
Yeah, and what we do
I think
for
you help
one,
the people that need to be helped, that want to be helped. The
But
people that
here's the
want to be
thing.
helped always ask for help.
In
If they
terms
don't
of-
want to be helped, then I'm not going to help you.
in-
That's just
right, and in terms of policy and tax and all that kind of and allocation of funds, what we do for one person will essentially affect everybody else in that group.
and
right?
that's
Yeah.
probably my
So-
biggest agreeance with you guys is absolutely the allocations of funds, government assistance, all that stuff needs to be helped. That like my biggest quorum with you guys and disagreements is the person's like I don't think it's anybody's personal like responsibility to have to take care of homeless people. Like I don't think so at all. I think as a community and as a like a civic duty, you should maybe want to, but I don't think you should be responsible at all. I think that should be the government's
Well, I think
job.
I think about it this way. For example, let's say, for example, painkillers. Painkillers essentially were created to help people get through some sort of injury or some sort of surgery or some sort of fracture in their body that and helps them get through the pain while their body heals. But some people become addicted to painkillers, right? Are we going to ban painkillers because some people are getting addicted to it? No, we're not.
Of course.
So it's the same idea with people who are unhoused. Like there are some people who take advantage, who don't want to help themselves, who prefer to stay unhoused. We've met a lot of people who prefer to
But
stay
I can say the
unhoused.
same thing with people that like commit crimes. Like some
But
people.
are
commit
we going to
crimes.
build a law that's going to say nobody's allowed to sleep in parks because we don't like the way it looks and it affects
I think
everybody?
criminalizing homelessness is dumb because it just it helps
It
repeat the
creates
problem
another
even
barrier.
more.
It creates
another
another
that
barrier.
goes down to,
Yeah.
again, like there's a lot of things I'm gonna like agree with you guys full-heartedly
Yeah.
on. Like that's dumb. Like it goes back to like systemic racism. Like there's a lot of things in the black community that keeps happening over and over and over and over in a perpetual motion, and it's like it will never change. And that's kind of like one of those things as well. It's like, how is this ever going to change if this is the situation that we're in?
Yeah.
So absolutely, I understand like allocations of funds, different things like that, government
Yeah.
assistance.
But I think it's important to like for people to know that, because the more people that know that is like there is an level of advocacy
True.
where we can push the needle. And I'm an advocate, so I will be in Tallahassee or I will be at the freaking Washington D.C. to be able to talk about these things and I want to see at the table.
And that's I think the extent of what a person's responsibility should
Yeah.
be in this situation is they should be doing that outward reaching out
Yeah.
in their close government to figure out like that thing that happened in Florida. That's something that Florida law was voted on. That means 60% of voters didn't go and vote for it.
Well, and I think a lot of the business community, and this is because I've talked to the business communities about it. Like I
Small
get
business
it.
will never want homeless people in
Of
there.
course.
And that's what I'm saying. You guys
I-
got to
but I-
understand that from
but I
like a
understand
personal.
but I understand the perspective. I absolutely.
Hey, okay,
I
then
talk
if
to
you do, then
business
you do.
people.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just had the Chamber of Commerce come here and all business people, and you know what? I was able to shift their
Like
perspective.
we have small
too.
business. We have the same issue. The thing is, we deal with these clients, so that's why we don't find as an issue.
Yeah.
But if let's say if we weren't this kind of company where we deal with this kind of clientele and we had to, we want to help them, then it would be an issue for us. And that's what I'm saying. It's like we feel so strongly about this because this is what we do. But it's like there's so many people this isn't what they do, and it's like it's hard to. I guess I come from the perspective of people that come at people for not helping. And it's
Well,
like there's no.
I think honestly, and I don't ever come from that perspective because I think a lack of education oftentimes, like if you don't feel responsible to help someone, that's fine. I understand, like I carry another type of responsibility that I wouldn't put the expectation on other people. It's part of who I am. It's part of my faith. It's what I feel called to do. However, I do feel that there is a sense of like getting people to understand and be a little bit more educated so they don't generalize every unhoused American.
That's true. Yeah,
And
that's fair.
honestly, to be like, you never know when you can't do like a really small thing to help someone. Like you may be the one that offers that person a job that is like, doesn't tell you that they're living unhoused, but they do want to work. And the reality is that they're lacking in, you can't afford, you can work like here and what is the minimum wage? I can't remember what the cost is
Well,
right
it's
now
going
to
up
be able
right
to
now.
rent a
I'm
place.
not sure what it is anymore.
To rent a place, like it's crazy. Like what you have to make.
The
in order
average
to
cost
live
of
here.
living to own a house right now is like I think 145 grand.
It's and majority people don't. I mean, that's like wild.
That
you
was one of the
know?
biggest reasons why I did not vote for the current people that were in office.
Yeah.
It was because of how big of in the last 4 years that jump has gone.
Yeah. So I think even with this scenario is like, there are people that do look at this and say like, this is a problem that is like all of our communities are experiencing and they want to help. Right. And so for me, it's how do we get enough people to the table to start strategizing on like what would be a sustainable strategy to start supporting this crisis. And I don't think that it is just dumping a bunch of money into like
I think when the government starts incentivizing keeping families in a solid and keeping families in a good place, that's when you'll start to see change, but that will never happen.
Yeah.
They're never going to incentivize
This is too much
you.
money.
Yeah. They're never going to incentivize you to be a good family. But when they incentivize you to be a bad family with welfare, different things like that, and that's what has made people more dependent on the government. That's what's created a lot of the issues that we have now today, especially in my Black community. And that's why I think there's a lot of like those issues with homelessness, independency, and needing money and needing like handouts and different things like that, because we really shouldn't be like that as a humanity. We shouldn't be dependent on our government for everything.
Yeah.
That's literally not what they're there for at all.
Yeah, no. I
So
know.
it's like, it's just a backwards.
I think when we depend on our government for everything, it creates an oppression. Like
100%.
like, that's
It's like if like that we're equal people, right? And I start depending on you for everything. Guess what? We're not gonna be equal anymore. I'm like, you're gonna be my leader. You're gonna be my power source. Because guess what? If I do something wrong with you, you're not gonna give me things.
well, that and I thought then you stop believing that you're capable of achieving things.
Absolutely,
And I
that's
think that's the biggest
an amazing
mindset.
point. And that's an amazing point. And that's my biggest thing with handout culture is like we enable people to be lazy, and it's not everybody, because there's some people that are just incapable of doing things and they need help. Like there's a lot of people, but I think that population of people is way smaller than the amount of people that are helped, and that's my thing. It's like if people would, not all homeless people, because again, it's like I know so many homeless people throughout my course of my life. Like my family's been homeless. Like me, I was almost at the brink of being homeless at one point, you know? So like,
What was the reason that you weren't?
I was taken in by someone else, like someone I've met in my life, and they just took care of me for a couple
got a
months.
hand up.
You
Yeah,
did. You got
pretty
a hand
much.
up, right? So
100%.
that's what I'm saying.
I mean,
is
it was
like,
my stepdad, but my former stepdad.
But what I'm saying is there are people out there that don't have that, right? Like if you weren't taken in by somebody,
True.
you would have been unhoused. And that's what's happened, right? You were going to be an orphan, right? And so how many other people are out there that didn't get that opportunity? And that's where I'm saying is like,
But I didn't get that opportunity from the government or something like that.
Well, I'm not
Well,
saying
that's what we're saying.
But that's what I'm saying.
Is that
That
it
was a
starts with us.
community.
But that's what I'm saying. I agree, like, within your family, like, if your family, that's like saying, like, I think your family should take care of you. If your family doesn't, that sucks. It's bad luck.
Yeah.
If that would have happened to me, it would suck. It would have been bad luck.
Yeah.
Am I going to cry about it and say, but that's what you guys are saying. You're saying, like, oh, you got a handout. It's like, if I didn't, I'm not going to cry about it. There's
Well,
so
you
many
don't know
people that
what you
don't.
need.
It's not about crying about
Yeah.
it.
But there's
It's
so many
about
people that
life
don't have that.
necessity. That's what we're saying.
I have like tons of friends that didn't grow up with any parents at all, and they don't come and say we should go and pump money into homelessness. That's a lot. They don't say that because guess what? They grew up in a hard time. They pushed through it. They're successful now, and they understand that they didn't need a handout to get out of that situation. They needed to, in their situation, get their stuff together, figure it out, and then grow up. They're in a better place than I am right now, and I had a better upbringing, and it's because a lot of the times adversity builds strength. It's not.
Well, I agree with that.
It's not something where
Yeah.
it's like, oh, they're in a tough place, they can't make it out. That's the thing. Like, I agree with you guys. We need to help people that need help, but at the same time, it's like there's a lot of people that don't need help that we're like, let's give them all our money and let's make me struggle. And the American people spend way more money for people that just don't try.
But I
It's
think
just
the
not fair, in my
problem
opinion.
is that we truly believe as a society that that's the majority. And that's the problem
Well,
in this
and
So do you
scenario.
think
but
that-
I think this is where we're also like disagreeing too, this is great. I love talking about this, is that it is not about just like pumping a bunch of money into something. When I talk about like community responsibility is like, I will give a job to someone, right? Like that is to me.
Would you take a
hand up.
homeless person into your house
Would I-
forever?
Would I take an unhoused
Forever.
person
To
into
live with you,
No,
to move
that's
into your
not.
home.
But that's not a
But that's what I'm
sustainability.
saying,
That's
like-
not dependence.
Okay.
But would I mentor somebody and would I help somebody who's will?
What if they
wants a
came into your
job?
home and they were never dependent? You never spent any money on them. You just taught them how to be a human. You taught them how to get into civility. How many people do that? No one does that because no one really cares enough to do that.
So
Like you said with my situation, they took me in.
Right.
They took me in because they're my family.
Right. No,
it's
I
not
understand
because
that.
they felt obligated to take care of me because they needed to because I'm homeless.
And I get that, and so I understand that. But what I'm saying is like so with individuals, you're right. Most people are not going to take somebody in.
Most people will talk. They'll literally just advocate, and then when the situation comes, they don't care at all.
Well, not
Happens all the
necessar-
time.
You're right. There's a lot of people that will do that.
Especially with immigrants.
But I
They'll be
don't
like,
think-
"Oh, I don't care," and
I
then
don't
they will never
necessarily
has
think
one.
that you have to take somebody into your home to help them. So like even for me, right? Like I've
I
served,
know that's an extreme for sure.
Yeah, like I've served many people like in my of providing services and worked with them while they were unhoused.
But this is your
right?
job. Imagine this wasn't your job. Like you, let's say you got an
But I've
offer.
done-
let's say you
right,
got an offer
okay.
for another branch of work and
Okay.
had nothing to do with community service, and it took up 80 hours of your work week, and you made $200,000 a year. You'd probably go work that job, and no one's gonna tell you need to go and help homeless people and do stuff like that. I'm not saying I guarantee, but there's a lot of people that would stop doing the amount of community work and civil work that they've done because it's not applying to their life anymore. That's the thing
That's where we disagree because it's just who I am. It's in
Okay.
my nature because I outside of working here, I do a lot of community service that I just do on my own.
But do you
time.
think that's because of your upbringing and how you grew up and how it's
No,
affected
I
your
don't
life?
think that's
Okay.
my upbringing. I think that is because of my recovery process, my feeling of responsibility to my community, and my faith. 1,000%. I live for Christ, and I'm supposed to care for the widows and orphans and live out my faith and be a light to others. That does not mean that I take them underneath me and I make them codependent on me and I become their pseudo God. It means that I will use my skill set, my resources, and my ability to really speak life into and encourage others. I am not responsible for their outcome, but I am responsible to carry out through and walk out in my daily living. Of
And I
Christ.
think I think that's a great place to, and I think
Not
that's where
everybody's like
people
that.
should leave it.
But that's not everybody, and I agree with you that that's not everybody. But I do feel like if we so. We do things for our family and we will take our family in and we'll support our family and all that stuff. Yes, I agree. Some people don't have families to do that, right? And I do think that adversity builds you and it builds strength. But I also believe that when we get like almost like those hand up blessings that like really removed a barrier when we're already striving to reach that goal, like that's awesome because that supported me in my process of achieving my goal. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for certain like hand up things that removed a barrier for me, but it didn't make me dependent on anything. It made me like think that I'm capable. I think people are very capable, and that's why.
So
I
are
don't
you saying
want
there's
them to
not
depend.
resources for people that are actually going in and looking for it? Like you, I know you guys are saying they're running out of beds and different things like that, but like let's say the people that are looking for hand ups and that are working on their life and doing things.
I think so.
Do you
yeah,
think
I
there are
there's
not
a lack.
resources for theirs?
I think there's a lack of resources. Yeah. Well, I think because when we talk about like how many
That would be
people
my
need-
biggest issue because I
Yeah.
think if you're trying and you're working and you're doing things to make effort, even if it's the smallest bit,
Yeah.
then you should be rewarded. But if you're not, I don't think you should. I don't care what situation you are. If you're not trying at all to get out of that situation, I don't think you should be.
Well, for sure. If you're
I
not
don't think
trying, then you're not.
Not to say I don't think you should be helped. I don't think someone should go out of their way to help you. It's like, why is someone going out of their way to help you when you're not trying at all?
Well, we can't make anyone ready, right? And so, like,
True.
when people are not ready, they're not ready.
But at the
So
same
we're
time,
not
when
gonna-
are we going to question a level of survival of the fittestness somewhat? It's like, are we just going to let people just be ready whenever they're ready
Right,
and
and-
wait on them whenever they're ready and it's just
And I think it's
It's not
important to
sustainable.
note that that's not necessarily the perspective that we're trying to bring to the table. I think the perspective, at least that I don't want to speak for anybody else, that I'm bringing to the table is that it's dangerous to think that people who think like that are the majority when we don't know what is the majority. We
Yeah.
don't know what is going in
my
their
thing about
lives.
the majority is I don't think it matters. I like it. Yes, that may not be how the majority of it happens. Let's say the majority of homeless people aren't put in homeless people because their situations. They're put in there because of what? Like, I don't know what the reasons would even be.
What I'm saying is it's more the mentality of it's dangerous to think that people who are unhoused are not trying to find those resources to get out of that situation.
And that's my thing. If they
I don't
are,
know
then
what-
they deserve the help. If they're not, they don't.
Right. But us as a community, right? Where and I'm a person of faith too. Like I got this thing in the back of my mind that's saying like, well, the Bible does tell me that I should help people in any way that I can, right? Try to find community resources where I can help out. Try to, if I can help financially, maybe I can donate to something that's trying to help. You see what I'm saying? There's things that we can realistically do to potentially, I donate clothes all the time instead of throwing it away. The amount of help that it is to not give your clothes to Goodwill and actually go to these donation places and just give them your clothes that you're already going to throw away, that they're giving out for free to the community, is already a huge help.
It is a help. Yeah.
For
You know
sure.
what I'm
I mean,
saying?
I've done
like,
that
there's
tons
things
of times.
we can do.
Those are
but
little
it all
things that actually
comes-
contribute to the ripple of supporting somebody in need, right?
But it all comes back to mindset.
yeah.
Am I going to take the mindset of like, well, they need to help themselves? Like, I'm not going to, or are we going to take the mindset of, well, that's true. Some of them might be in the mindset that they're just trying to get resources wherever they can and they don't want to quote unquote help themselves. But I'm really trying to support people who are trying to help themselves, you know? And it's true. This job really puts into focus like a lighthouse what our goals are. But imagine just being in a regular 9-to-5 computer in front of your desk job. You know, there's things that you can do in that way as well. It's all about mindset. And I agree with you completely. It's our community. That's our responsibility is true to take care of our family, to take care of ourselves. Absolutely. But if we can help, why shouldn't we help? You see what I'm saying? And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. There's people out there who don't want it. I've met people. I've worked with
I have
people
too. I've had people
who
literally
don't want
deny,
it.
and that's okay, but I'm not going to let that experience change the next person that I help.
And I've never
Exactly.
said that. I don't think we should generalize it to that. When I'm speaking general, I think you help people that want to be helped. I'm not saying don't help homeless people. I think absolutely homeless people need help because at the end of the day, it could be you, him, me.
100%.
Could have been any of us
Yeah.
yesterday.
But
So I
how do we
understand that.
know unless we meet them where
Or
they're at?
well, yeah, you just
And
gotta
I
be
agree. It's
intentional.
never been a point of me like saying we shouldn't make contact. We shouldn't initiate a point of contact. My thing is we shouldn't be trying to completely go out of our way or like increase the tax bracket or increase the amount of money or obligate people to spend a certain amount of money for a population of people that we don't know whether or not they're working or not or trying or not. It's just dumb to me because there have been so many people that have like, why don't we increase the taxes? Why don't we pay this much more so we can? That's not going to help the problem. When has help adding more money to people that needed handouts helped? It has never helped in the history of the United States. Ever since Jim Crow's laws, since they added welfare, since whenever we add things to give people more money, even the stimulus packages, when the COVID came out, we gave people a bunch of money. What did that do? Inflation shot
Well, I
up.
agree. So we're not
never
here
good to give
saying
people
that
money.
that is the answer. So none of us here said that that's the answer. I know that I've spoken against that. What I'm saying is I think that the answer is bigger than just one person is willing. But if nobody's willing to support the answer, then that's why you see all these things where it's like, oh, we're just going to do this handout. We're going to do all of that. It's these systems that we know do not work, but they are built and structured the way that they are to create more oppression. And so if we don't wake up and see that and say, what can we do as a community? But people have to have the care for that, and not everybody does. I will always stand to be like an educator of those things because I agree. I don't think that it's just we need to like dump money into places that we see the outcomes show this does not work, right? But we need to strategize because money is going there. How can we move money around to make something actually work? Now, whether that's going to happen or not, you're right. It may be that we fight for this for a really long time and it never happens. But I will always fight for what I believe is right. And I will always stand on that, And if I can do something to help, I'm going to do something to help. But I think about sustainability. I don't look at things as like, I'm going to just give out money and give out all of these things because people have to, it's like with the lottery. They say like a person who wins the lottery, who's never been able to manage money a day in their life, they lose it very quickly. Why are we not teaching those skills in school? Why are we not teaching different types of skills?
And that's what I'm saying. That goes down to everybody, not just homeless people.
Of course.
That's what I'm saying. I think
But if you don't
Most
have
people have the same
proximity-
opportunities.
But if you don't have proximity to like somebody who can like mentor and guide you and teach you these things, and not everybody does until they do.
Yeah.
So sometimes the proximity, so as I was saying, is like the people I provided services to people and met them on bus stops, met them on corners because they were unhoused, right? But in 1 year of services, meeting them on the streets,
Life changes, yeah.
changed their whole life. I met them on the streets and I didn't give them money. Okay. What I did is I started to teach them skills. I started to talk to them. I started to guide them towards something, and they were able to put that effort in where they realized I'm capable of this. And so
and that's why that's where I agree with you. I think the importance of mentoring is so widely underappreciated and so widely unadapted for so many families and just communities. I think that's the biggest thing that would push forward a lot of communities is being mentored by outstanding individuals in society. If there was a group of black men that had a black young men that had a successful black men to come back and mentor them and do that on a regular basis, like if we were obligated on a community basis to do stuff like that, that would be great.
Me too.
I think stuff like that would be great.
Yes, these are the things. This is why I want to be at the table of like when we're talking about like how do we strategize? Because I agree. Like I don't think the way that we've been doing it is what's working. We see it's not working, and it's the same stuff that keeps happening. So if we look at the data, we look at the outcomes, we could say this doesn't work. But I do have a lot of ideas of what could work. But it would take people that would be willing to like really invest in a different mindset. Because that's what it is, you know? I mean, that's my thought process on it.
Yeah. Any final thoughts before we close?
I mean, it's a controversial topic. I mean, with that being said, I have no issues with homeless people at all. Like, at the end of the day, like, I obviously feel bad. I'm very sad about the circumstances that people are dealt. It sucks. Like I said, I almost was in a similar situation. I know many people in my life, like immigrants and stuff like that, who had a very tough time finding housing in the last 10 years. I've been homeless. I've had friends sleep on my bed, you know, like when they couldn't find a house when they're in their 20s, you know. So I've seen it. And like people that you wouldn't think that are going through the situation. So I understand that homelessness is an absolute issue and it needs to be dealt with. And even myself, I know that I need to work on certain things, like even my generalizations with homelessness. I just think as a community, it's something that people need to just, I think the biggest thing is not having that, like Chris said, not having that thought process that they're not human. Because all the things that I'm saying are never from a process of they're not human, that's why we shouldn't hand out. I just think no one's better than, or no one deserves more than anyone else. So that's kind of where my standpoint is like, I think you get help when you come get it. That's kind of where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree with you.
I don't disagree with that either.
Sense.
Yeah, I think we.
But I also understand why people can do, like, they can see the opposite. And it's like, again, I'm working on every idea and every mindset that I have every day, daily. And I'm, you know, I take in what people say and different things like that. So like, you know, it is an issue that, you know, none of us want to see, and like I hope has a lot of work done, and you know, like some of even the ideas that we mentioned today, like I hope that, you know, some of those things.
Well, there's people doing that, and like there are people that get off the streets, you know, like that happens, you know, and it's because of the support of like somebody mentoring and like some of those just like hand up experiences, not like the dependence hand out experiences. You know, and I think that people are very capable. It
would be cool to actually, I mean, it'd be tough to do, but like to, I know we always talk about doing like a mobile podcast, but almost like
that would be really
get
cool.
Perspectives from homeless people.
Well, there was this pastor who he had very closed mindsets, you know, and he went on the streets and it changed his entire.
I'd love to interview 10 people, but be like, and ask them a simple question like, do you think you, maybe like, should we be obligated to help you or something like that? Or, you know, like random questions that would be politically correct.
What does help look like? Right? Because I think oftentimes when we think of help and people throw help the homeless, people think money automatically. So they're like, oh, no, blah, blah. But what does help look like? Because we just, what I brought up here had really, I never mentioned once that I think we should raise taxes, we should do this.
But I think a lot of the time that people also look at time
I agree.
as more than money.
Yeah, I know.
which
But
it
you know
is.
what? But I look at people as our greatest assets. So every person that I've been able to invest my time into, like the return on investment is like there's nothing greater than that.
I
And
agree, but
yeah.
there's some people that just don't feel that way.
You're right. Oh, 100% right. Yeah.
Because I agree. When you help people or when you give something to someone,
When you watch somebody just like overcome and like walk through that adversity and like you got to be just a small part of their story, heck to the yeah. That is rich.
I think at the end of the day, I think that we should strive to remove barriers wherever we can.
yeah, that's a great
If we
point.
can give somebody a jacket when it gets cold outside, that's really
yeah,
awesome.
we
If
should never try
can
to make anyone's life harder.
give food to somebody who's just desperately hungry.
or
we
just be
should try
kind.
it.
You
Or
know,
just be
sometimes when I have
kind.
nothing to give, I will tell someone, I'm like, you know, God loves you so much.
Yeah.
You know, I'm praying for you.
Yeah.
Like, or I'll even pray with people. Like I do that on the street.
It's so funny. I say all this stuff, and I'm probably the number one person to give something to a homeless person. It's if whenever I see them, give them food, do things
Yeah.
like that. Because I truly do feel in my heart that, like you said, we are obligated to help fellow mankind.
Yeah.
You know, so like,
The same way that I would help my brother if he ever told me, bro,
no, absolutely.
I don't have a roof right now.
I
Can
really
you let me
do-
sleep
Yeah.
over?
Yeah, I really feel more
absolutely.
passionate about my family, obviously, but at the same time, I do care a lot about the random human. A lot, you know.
Yeah.
To see a random human struggling on the street, it's very
Yeah.
disheartening for
Now
me.
imagine if like everyone felt this perspective. It would. I'm telling you, our communities would change so much, and it doesn't mean that I'm giving people money. Like that could be a way of giving, but there's so many other ways of giving. Like I have had incredible experiences out on the street, not with South Florida Wellness Network, just me doing stuff that I love to do, which is going and like impacting people and loving on people. And I have had like some of the most incredible experiences, and God has like blown my mind in such beautiful, profound ways. And then years later, I will cross paths, and it's like, wow. And it's not, oh, you gave me money, but like, Kayla, like that time in my life where we sat for 2 hours and talked, like it really, you know, whatever, the things that you said changed, whatever. I believe it's Holy Spirit that speaks through me, but it led them to believe something in themselves that they may not have believed. And then there was a trajectory of just like opportunity and things
Sonic
like that
boom.
where they were able to overcome. That is them putting in the work. But
Yeah.
my kindness and the things that I can give freely, that helps too.
It's probably the biggest community work that you could do.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
helping homeless people. I mean, any type of community work is
Any
great.
type of support for the
Yeah.
community, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all that being said, thank you so much for listening to this episode. We really appreciate you staying this far. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and share this podcast wherever you can. And for our audio listeners, we see you, we love you, we thank you so much. Please give us that 5-star rating if you can. It really helps boost the podcast. And remember, guys, kindness is free.
Yeah.
See you next week.